Your dog looks at you like you hung the moon, and in return, you'd give them the world, or at the very least, whatever's left on your plate. The problem is, some of what's on that plate could actually kill them. Here are the 11 toxic foods you should never feed your dog, and 7 safe alternatives you can give them instead. Chocolate. Let's get the obvious one out of the way first. Most dog owners know chocolate is bad. Far fewer know why or just how bad actually is. Chocolate contains 2 compounds in the methylxanthine family, theobromine and caffeine. Dogs metabolize theobromine much more slowly than humans do. While a person processes it and moves on with their day, a dog's system is essentially stuck trying to break something down that it wasn't built to handle. The result, depending on the dose and the dog's size, ranges from vomiting and diarrhea to tremors, seizures, irregular heart rhythm, and death. The darker the chocolate, the higher the theobromine concentration, and the more dangerous it becomes. Baking chocolate and cocoa powder sit at the top of the risk scale. Milk chocolate is lower but still dangerous, especially for small dogs. White chocolate has almost no theobromine, but it still contains caffeine and should be kept away from dogs entirely. A small dog eating even a few ounces of dark chocolate can end up in an emergency vet clinic. The ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center lists chocolate among the most common causes of pet poisoning calls every year, consistently in the top 5 year after year. The timing of holidays doesn't help. Halloween, Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's Day each bring a predictable spike in chocolate-related emergency calls simply because more of it is lying around the house and more of it is accessible to curious dogs. If your dog gets into chocolate, don't wait to see what happens. Call a vet immediately. The treatment window matters, and "he seems fine" is not a safe baseline to operate from. Grapes and raisins. This one surprises a lot of people. Grapes seem harmless, small, natural fruit. And yet, grapes and raisins are among the most dangerous foods a dog can eat, capable of causing acute kidney failure that can be fatal within days. The specific toxic compound is still being studied. For a long time, no one could identify the mechanism. More recent research from veterinary toxicologists has pointed to tartaric acid, a naturally occurring compound in grapes, as the likely culprit since dogs lack the ability to process it effectively. But the science hasn't fully closed on this, which is part of what makes it so concerning. What makes grapes particularly dangerous beyond the toxicity itself is the inconsistency of individual responses. Some dogs have eaten grapes repeatedly without apparent harm. Others have developed life-threatening kidney failure after eating just a few. There is no established safe quantity. Veterinary guidance from the ASPCA and the American Kennel Club is consistent. No amount of grapes or raisins should be considered safe, and the fact that your dog survived them before is not evidence that it will survive them again. Raisins are effectively concentrated grapes and therefore potentially more dangerous gram for gram, since dogs can eat more of them before realizing what they've consumed. The timeline of kidney failure following grape or raisin ingestion typically begins with vomiting within a few hours, followed by lethargy, decreased urination, and eventually complete kidney shutdown. Treatment is most effective when started early, ideally before symptoms appear, which is why calling a vet immediately after any known grape or raisin ingestion is the right move, even if the dog is acting completely normal. Xylitol. Xylitol is a sugar substitute found in a wide range of products: sugarless gum, certain peanut butters, candy, baked goods, mouthwash, toothpaste, and even some vitamin supplements. For humans, it's a benign sweetener. For dogs, it triggers a release of insulin from the pancreas that is wildly disproportionate to what's actually needed, causing blood sugar to crash rapidly in a condition called hypoglycemia. Initial symptoms, vomiting, lethargy, and loss of coordination, can appear within 30 minutes of ingestion. From there, the situation can progress to seizures, liver failure, and death. The ASPCA notes that liver failure from xylitol can develop within a few days, and in some cases, even small doses cause severe damage. The particular danger of xylitol in the modern household is how many products contain it without being obvious about it. Peanut butter is the one that catches dog owners most off guard because peanut butter is traditionally considered a safe dog treat, and many people use it to hide medications or as a reward. Some brands have added xylitol as a sweetener. Checking the ingredient label before giving your dog any peanut butter product is not optional. Cornell University's College of Veterinary Medicine maintains detailed information on xylitol toxicity, and the message is consistent. Even small exposures warrant immediate veterinary contact. The challenge going forward is that xylitol's use as a sweetener has been expanding into more product categories over time. Protein bars, certain vitamins, and some flavored waters make it worth treating ingredient label reading as a habit rather than an occasional precaution, especially for anything sweet or sugar-free that a dog might realistically access. Onions, garlic, and chives. The entire allium family, onions, garlic, chives, leeks, and shallots, is toxic to dogs, and the mechanism is a slow, insidious one. Compounds in these vegetables damage the red blood cells, causing them to rupture. The resulting condition is hemolytic anemia, a reduction in the oxygen-carrying capacity of the blood that, in serious cases, can be fatal. What makes this particularly dangerous in practice is that toxicity can be cumulative. Small amounts fed repeatedly over time can build up to a harmful level just as surely as a single large dose, and the damage often isn't obvious until it's significant. A dog might eat onion in food repeatedly over days before showing symptoms: weakness, lethargy, pale gums, rapid breathing, or collapse. Garlic is more concentrated than onion in terms of toxicity per gram, making it more dangerous by weight, and the form doesn't matter much: raw, cooked, or powdered. Onion powder in particular is found in a staggering range of processed and seasoned foods, making it a hidden hazard in table scraps, broths, seasonings, and leftovers that people wouldn't think twice about. Dr. Tina Wismer, medical director of the ASCA Animal Poison Control Center, has noted that garlic is roughly 5 times more toxic to dogs than onions on a per-weight basis. Chives and leeks fall into the same category and carry the same risks. None of them are safe in any form, and none of them should be dismissed on the grounds that the dog only had a little. The cumulative damage model means there's no reliable safe threshold in everyday feeding. Macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are interesting in a frustrating way. The exact toxic mechanism remains unknown. Veterinary toxicologists know that these nuts are harmful to dogs. The evidence is clinically well established. But what specifically in the nut causes the reaction hasn't been pinned down. What is known as the clinical picture. Within 12 hours of ingestion, affected dogs typically show weakness and an inability to stand, particularly in the hind legs. Vomiting, tremors, fever, and depression are common. The good news is that macadamia toxicity in dogs is generally non-fatal. Most dogs recover within 24 to 72 hours with supportive care. The bad news is that combining macadamia nuts with other toxic foods, chocolate in particular, significantly worsens outcomes. White chocolate macadamia nut cookies are, in that sense, a double threat. They're also genuinely delicious, which makes them exactly the kind of thing a dog is going to try very hard to get to. Macadamia nuts also show up in mixed nut packages and trail mix, where they're harder to identify at a glance. This is another reason to keep those items well out of reach, rather than assuming a dog won't find the specific nut in the mix that causes problems. Alcohol. This one might seem too obvious to include, but the reality is that alcohol exposure in dogs happens more often than people expect, and not always through drinks. Alcohol is present in certain desserts, rum-soaked fruitcakes, fermented foods, and raw bread dough that contains actively fermenting yeast. Dogs are far more sensitive to alcohol than humans, and the effects hit faster and harder relative to body weight. Even small amounts can cause vomiting, disorientation, dangerously low blood sugar, difficulty breathing, coma, and death. The smaller the dog, the lower the threshold for a life-threatening exposure. Raw bread dough is a specific concern because the yeast continues to ferment inside the warm environment of a dog's stomach, producing ethanol as a byproduct. The dough also expands, causing painful bloating that can become a physical emergency on its own, a gastric dilation that may require emergency surgery. The SPCA specifically flags yeast dough as a separate hazard, both for the alcohol it produces and the physical expansion it undergoes. Avocado. The relationship between avocados and dogs is a bit more nuanced than many people realize. Avocado contains a compound called persin, a fungicidal toxin found in the leaves, skin, pit, and to a lesser extent, the flesh of the fruit. For birds, rabbits, and certain other animals, persin is highly toxic and can be fatal. For dogs, the risk level from the flesh alone is lower but not negligible. The ASPCA notes that avocado is primarily a significant concern for birds and rabbits. While in dogs, the main practical risks are gastrointestinal upset from the flesh and choking or intestinal obstruction from the pit. The pit is large, hard, and sized approximately like a golf ball, not something a dog should be swallowing. The safest position, supported by most veterinary sources, is simply to keep avocado away from dogs entirely. The nuance doesn't help when your dog has eaten something it shouldn't have at 11 p.m. and the vet's office is closed. Caffeine. Caffeine and dogs do not mix for much, the same reason chocolate is dangerous, since they share the methylxanthin mechanism. Coffee, tea, energy drinks, soda, and certain medications all contain caffeine in varying concentrations. The clinical picture of caffeine toxicity in dogs includes restlessness, rapid breathing, muscle tremors, elevated heart rate, and seizures. The severity depends on the amount consumed and the size of the dog. A large dog lapping up a bit of spilled coffee is probably not in immediate danger. A small dog getting into a supply of caffeine supplements or eating a significant amount of coffee grounds is another matter entirely. Coffee grounds and tea bags carry concentrated amounts, far more than the brewed liquid, and are more commonly encountered by curious dogs rooting through kitchen trash. This is worth keeping in mind when it comes to where those get disposed of. Energy drinks present a related but compounded hazard. Since many contain both caffeine and additional stimulants or sweeteners, including xylitol in some formulations, a dog that gets into an energy drink is potentially dealing with multiple toxic compounds at once. Raw dough and yeast. Covered briefly under alcohol, raw dough deserves its own mention because the risks are dual and both are serious. Unbaked dough containing active yeast will continue rising after a dog eats it as the yeast ferments in the warm, moist environment of the stomach. This fermentation produces ethanol, enough to cause alcohol toxicity, and the physical expansion of the dough can cause bloating severe enough to require emergency surgery. Gastric dilatation volvulus, more commonly called bloat, is one of the most dangerous conditions dogs can develop. The stomach fills with gas and can twist on itself, cutting off blood supply. Without immediate veterinary intervention, it can be fatal. Raw dough is one of the dietary triggers that can set this in motion. This is particularly relevant for households that bake regularly. Dough left to rise on a counter is, from a dog's perspective, an extremely tempting and accessible food item. Onion and garlic powder in processed foods. This gets its own entry separate from raw alliums because it's a distinct and underappreciated hazard. Onion powder and garlic powder are vastly more concentrated than their fresh counterparts. The dehydration process intensifies the toxic compounds, and they're present in an enormous range of processed human foods that people commonly share with dogs. Baby food, canned broths, seasoning packets, prepared meats, frozen meals, instant noodles, and many table scraps contain onion or garlic powder as a standard flavoring ingredient. A dog owner who would never deliberately feed their dog an onion might inadvertently be dosing them with onion powder every time they share leftovers. Reading ingredient labels on anything you're about to share with a dog isn't paranoia. It's just accurate risk management. Grapes and raisins in baked goods. Raisins appear on this list separately from fresh grapes because they hide in plain sight inside common baked goods. Raisin bread, oatmeal raisin cookies, hot cross buns, fruitcake, and trail mix. A dog owner who knows grapes are dangerous might not make the connection when a dog steals a cookie off the counter. As noted earlier, raisins are more dangerous per gram than fresh grapes because of the concentration effect. A small number of raisins in a single cookie could represent a clinically significant toxic exposure for a small dog. There is no established minimum safe amount, and the kidneys don't announce they're in distress until the damage is already done. If a dog eats anything containing raisins, treating it as an emergency, not a wait-and-see situation, is the right call. Now for the better part of the story, because your dog wants a treat from you, and there's no good reason to let the list above end the conversation. There are plenty of foods that are not only safe for dogs, but genuinely nutritious. A useful general rule from veterinary nutritionists: treats of any kind, human food or otherwise, should make up no more than 10% of a dog's daily caloric intake. That applies to the safe alternatives too. These are additions to a complete diet, not replacements for one. Carrots. Carrots are one of the most consistently recommended dog-friendly foods across veterinary sources, and the reasons stack up quickly. They're low in calories, high in fiber, and rich in beta-carotene, the precursor to vitamin A, which supports vision, skin health, and immune function. Raw carrots also provide a satisfying crunch that many dogs love, and the act of chewing on them helps clean teeth in a way that genuinely benefits dental health over time. They can be served raw or cooked. If raw, cut them into appropriately sized pieces to avoid any choking risk. No seasoning, no butter, and no preparation beyond washing and cutting. Most dogs find them genuinely appealing on their own, which makes them one of the most practically useful treats on this list. Blueberries. Blueberries earn the superfood label in the context of dog nutrition for the same reasons they do in human nutrition. They're dense in antioxidants, particularly anthocyanins, which help combat oxidative stress. They're also low in calories and high in fiber and vitamins C and K. Fresh or frozen blueberries work equally well as a treat. Frozen blueberries are a popular option on hot days and double as a cooling enrichment activity. The slight challenge of eating something frozen keeps dogs engaged in a way a plain treat doesn't. They're small enough for dogs of most sizes to handle without any preparation, though with very small dogs, you might want to cut them in half to be safe. As with any treat, moderation matters. A handful is a snack, not a bowlful. The natural sugar in fruit is still sugar, and more isn't automatically better just because the source is healthy. Watermelon. Watermelon is over 90% water, which makes it an excellent hydration-supporting treat, particularly in summer. It contains vitamins A, B6, and C, as well as potassium and the antioxidant lycopene. The calorie count per serving is low. The preparation rule is firm: remove all seeds and the rind before giving any to your dog. The seeds can cause intestinal blockage, and the rind is difficult for dogs to digest and can cause gastrointestinal distress. The flesh itself, seedless and rind-free, is safe, and most dogs enjoy it. Frozen watermelon chunks make a particularly good warm weather treat. Plain cooked chicken. Plain, unseasoned, fully cooked chicken is one of the most protein-dense, digestible foods a dog can eat, and it shows up regularly in both commercial dog foods and veterinary-recommended bland diets for dogs recovering from stomach upset. The critical qualifier here is plain. No garlic, no onion, no salt, and no seasonings of any kind, all of which are common in human-prepared chicken, but hazardous to dogs. The bones must be removed completely. Cooked bones splinter and can puncture the gastrointestinal tract, which is a surgical emergency. Boneless, skinless, chicken breast, or thigh meat, boiled or baked without anything added, is the benchmark. Dr. Sylvia Burns of Sploot Veterinary Clinics has noted simply, "Even cooked bones are risky," a useful reminder that the preparation method doesn't make chicken bones safe. Pumpkin. Plain cooked pumpkin is genuinely useful as a dog food supplement rather than just a treat. Veterinarians commonly recommend it for digestive issues, both diarrhea and constipation, because its fiber content helps regulate gastrointestinal function in both directions. It's also low in calories and contains vitamins A, C, and E, as well as zinc and iron. The consistent caveat across all veterinary sources is to use plain pumpkin, either fresh cooked or 100% pure canned pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling, which contains sugar, spices, and sometimes xylitol. Those two products sit next to each other on supermarket shelves in nearly identical cans, and the difference between them matters significantly. Beyond digestive support, pumpkin is also a practical option for dogs that need to lose weight. Its high fiber content adds bulk to a meal, helping a dog feel fuller without adding meaningful calories. Some veterinarians recommend it as a regular addition to the diets of overweight dogs, not as a solution on its own, but as a low-calorie, high-satiety supplement that supports the broader goal. Green beans. Plain green beans are among the lowest calorie treat options for dogs, which makes them particularly popular for dogs that are overweight or on a calorie-restricted diet. They're a good source of fiber, vitamins C and K, and manganese. Dogs often find the texture appealing, whether raw or lightly cooked. The preparation rules are simple: no seasoning, no butter, and no canned versions packed in sodium. Raw, frozen, or freshly steamed are all fine. Canned green beans with added salt are not. This is another case where the default human food preparation method, usually involving salt, butter, or both, is precisely what needs to be skipped. Some vets recommend replacing a portion of a dog's usual kibble with green beans as a weight management strategy, enough to add bulk and satisfaction without adding significant calories. It's a practical approach for dogs that seem perpetually hungry but need to lose weight, and it uses a food that's nutritionally sound rather than just filling. Apple slices. Apples are a safe, sweet treat for dogs that provide fiber and vitamins A and C. They're also relatively low in calories, and many dogs find them appealing as a crunchy snack. The preparation rule is non-negotiable. Remove the core and all seeds before giving any apple to a dog. Apple seeds contain amygdalin, a compound that releases cyanide when metabolized. The amount in a few seeds is unlikely to cause serious harm, but there's no reason to include them when they're trivially easy to remove. The skin is fine to leave on, and the flesh is safe. Sliced into pieces appropriate for your dog's size, apples make a simple, genuinely dog-friendly treat that requires almost no effort to prepare. They also happen to be one of the most available and affordable fruits in most households, which means if you're looking for a practical daily treat that isn't a processed dog biscuit, apples are a reasonable go-to. Just remember, core out, seeds out every single time. Dogs will eat almost anything you put in front of them, and a lot of things you don't. That's not a personality flaw, it's just how they're wired, but that instinct doesn't come with any built-in ability to screen for what's going to hurt them. And that's where knowing this list matters. The good news is that the safe alternative section exists for a reason. You don't have to stop sharing food with your dog. You just have to know which foods to share. The ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center is available 24 hours a day at 888-426-443 if you think your dog has eaten something toxic. That number is worth keeping on hand because the difference between a bad evening and a tragedy is often just how fast you act. If this guide helps you protect your furry companion and navigate the kitchen more safely, please subscribe and like the video. We are uncovering the vital information that keeps our pets healthy and happy. Let's build a safer future for our dogs together. Our next deep dive into pet wellness will be opening soon.